What an astronomical revolution. Bitcoin is immune from attack.
Welcome back to the Crypto Show's Digital Cash Evolution right here on the Bloomberg Network. And today we're talking with Michael Scott. Is it Diamond Michael Scott?
Is that what you prefer?
Either way. I threw the diamond on because everybody kept saying, Michael Scott, getting me confused with that character on the show The Office.
Well, that makes sense. Maybe we're out of that decade now.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself, Michael. What's your involvement in the crypto space, the business space? Why do we have you online today?
Well, briefly, I started in crypto in 2014. I was in Denver, bored out of my mind, had gone through some transition with a previous relationship, and I was in downtown Denver and had scheduled a time to go to a meetup, and it was the Colorado Bitcoin Society, so I ended up going. And I honestly, when I got there, I almost left because it was in this kind of dark, dank underground wine cellar, and there were all of these bearded characters who looked like they hadn't slept or eaten in about a month, talking about Bitcoin.
Right.
And,
Southern Kitchen. I'm in Denver, so I think I've been there.
Yeah, Southern Hospitality.
Southern Hospitality, that was it.
Yeah, right downtown on 17th Street. So, But I stuck around, and they loaded my wallet up at the time with a few Bitcoins, and or not total Bitcoins, but a few dollars worth of Bitcoin. And I left there saying, this is going to be big, and I got to figure out a way to get involved.
And what are you up to today? I know you're involved in you do a lot of writing, you're involved in the economy. I see you a lot on Twitter. Like what are you focused on these days?
Well, going back to that whole story, I ended up transitioning my journalistic interest to the crypto blockchain world. I ended up writing I think 260 articles just last year. So this has morphed into a journalistic career of sorts. And one of the things that kind of frightened me at first, but I had to kind of figure it out, was I started getting paid in Bitcoin, and at one point was 100% crypto. So I had to figure out how to use it to pay rent and to buy groceries and
that's
clothes.
Interesting. So you kind of backed into using cryptocurrency as a regular day-to-day economic tool.
Yeah, it was a grand experiment. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. But it's been one hell of a journey.
Yeah, it is definitely not for everyone. And I made a similar move in late 2015. And, it's still a challenge. Here we are mid-2018, and we still don't have the mechanisms that we would like to have. And I still need to have a traditional bank account. I mean, I have one with a credit union. I got out of the big banks. But, there's still friction there, right? And so... I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was how do we transition out of that friction, and what can we do as a community, as a crypto space, as people involved in these cryptocurrencies to kind of propel that mission. And I think one of the things that the space is understanding is governance. We need to make decisions.
That actually makes all of us, because I've been on it for well over a year, 100% crypto.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, and I'm out of fiat. I don't hold any of my meager wealth in fiat anymore. I used to have a 401k, and I know people are going to freak out. Oh, you cashed out your 401k? Yeah, I did do that. But half of that went to pay for medical bills to prevent myself from going into bankruptcy. And that's, I think, a common story for a lot of people. Right. And it's actually why I started working in the crypto space myself, is I was taking it on as a second job to pay for medical bills. And I spent a lot of Dash before the rise of 2017, and it was kind of a disheartening thing. I wish I would have been able to hold on to it, but I had to pay bills, right? So we're using it as as an economic mechanism, right? We're not using it necessarily as, we're not hodlers, I guess. I mean, we try to hodl as much as we can, but I think the best way forward is to use it as an economic. We shouldn't necessarily be hodling unless you're just trying to have a savings account, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Well, I was faced with a very similar predicament after my divorce, and was literally left with nothing, and then suddenly had the scenario of having to figure out how to, live my life on Bitcoin. I had to spend it, and I learned so much about the kind of the overriding philosophy of Satoshi Nakamoto with it being a peer-to-peer way of transacting funds. And for me, I just had to figure out how to keep it simple, and do the best that I can to take care of myself during that transitional period.
I think our audience might be interested in hearing some of that. Like, one of the things that I do is when I was getting paid by Dash Core, I opened up an Uphold account. So Uphold.com supports Dash, and you can deposit Dash and connect it with your bank account. So you can translate back and forth between fiat currencies and Dash using Uphold. Now, I'm sure that wasn't available back in 2014, 2015. That was actually just released late 2017. And I've been utilizing it since then. So how are you doing it these days? Have you found simple mechanisms, simple ways to move in and out of the crypto and fiat worlds?
Yeah, so I, like you, have debit card accounts. I'm a big fan of debit cards, in large part because as opposed to credit, which can get you in a whole whale of trouble, it's just pure, cash. So I have ways to, cash out when I need to, use my debit cards when I need to. But probably the biggest piece for me was this whole world of gift cards. I was kind of chuckling with my girlfriend this morning about, we were in Starbucks, and, I was telling her that I literally survived off of Starbucks for, I don't know, a good 6-7 months while I was in Vegas. Because that was the easiest gift card to get, and I remember just really traumatic moments in there, figuring out how I could make my best use of my Bitcoin. The fees were going up, and how much of a Starbucks gift card could I get to get one of those sausage sandwiches and my favorite drink, which is a dirty chai. Nevertheless, I survived, and I learned so much about, there are ways to practically use your crypto again to eat, to drink, to live, to get your clothes.
This is an interesting thing that Joel Valenzuela of Dash Force News brings up quite a bit, is leveraging the gift cards. And I, personally, that seems very complicated. I don't know if that's simple, but
it isn't. It isn't.
It seems like a lot to manage, right? Because then you kind of got a budget ahead of time. Okay, then spend this much here and this much there.
Right. Yeah.
Or just at least depending on it. But I mean, I can see how there's good outlets that going that direction. There's more and more coming online every day. There's, speaking from a Dash perspective, because that's what I'm most familiar with. I know that there's a relationship with like rewards.com. I know that there's bitrefill.com and a number of other services where you can, top up cell phone minutes and buy cheapair.com. You can buy flight tickets with Dash and those kinds of things. But with the gift cards, there's a few outlets, and I think there's more and more coming online every day. But what I'd like to see is moving more and more into business. Let's get merchant adoption. Let's get merchants paying their employees in the right kinds of cryptocurrencies. I would vote Dash. Those are the kinds of things that I'd like to see. What's your perspective on that? Journalistically, economically, like what are you seeing in that space?
Well, when we talk about e-commerce, you have to immediately look at places like Amazon. One of the things that I'm discovering from engaging with their world of commerce is that you can pretty much do anything through Amazon anymore. I'm of late, I've really gotten into this whole thing around deliveries. Through their Amazon Fresh, which will deliver groceries to your door.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So,
and they've
really,
partnered with Whole Foods, and they're opening more and more channels, right?
Absolutely. And so I think it's so important that, whether it be Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin Cash has been very controversial, but their value proposition is tied to the everyday world of commerce. Dash, you guys are the essentially kind of the leaders. I think personally, in terms of really advancing this whole idea. Waves platform out of Moscow originally, and now out of Switzerland, is doing some really cool things. So in this world that has become very, very speculative from a crypto standpoint, I think we really need to remind those that are in this community of the vital importance of spending crypto to create a more balanced ecosystem.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been kind of twisted in 2018 in the crypto space is this idea that HODL means even in the bear market, you just hold on to your coins. And
right.
I personally don't agree with that. I think HODL means that you are moving out of fiat and into crypto, and you are hodling in crypto rather than in fiat, and you are
right.
using your crypto on a day-to-day basis. And that's what I think a true hodler is. And I don't like how this narrative is being shifted away from just contributing and keeping an ongoing economy and actually spend and replace your cryptocurrency versus just hold it and become a rich millionaire because you've been holding on to it. That's not how we build an economy. That's not how we make more connections. That's not how you do peer-to-peer transactions. You can't do peer-to-peer transactions if you're not transacting.
Right,
So
exactly.
That's kind of the fundamental place that I take from it. It sounds like you agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to foster more activity.
So thanks for coming on, Michael. I think we're going to wrap it up there. How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about your work in the space?
Well, I'm on, I'm so many places. Probably the best place to find me is on Twitter, which is at biz, _Michael. Just find me there, and that's kind of a connection hub for any and all things that I've got going on.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I know you've made a number of contributions to the space, and thank you for coming on, Michael.
Absolutely. Happy to join you guys. Have a terrific day.
All right.
Thanks again.